Hello and welcome to NFL and I am Johnny, and today we are going to talk about the AFC North in 2021. Before I get started on this preview of the AFC North in 2021, make sure you give the Instagram and the Twitter a follow, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content we produce. So the AFC North is one of those divisions which has three young, up-and-coming, well, I suppose you can call them up-and-coming quarterbacks, in Joe Burrow for the Cincinnati Bengals, Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens, and Baker Mayfield for the Cleveland Browns, and of course an aging QB who is in the twilight of his career in Ben Roethlisberger. The division also contains one of the most vicious rivalries in the NFL, all of it, between the Steelers and the Browns after the infamous Myles Garrett incident with Mason Rudolph, who decided to hit the Steelers QB with his own helmet in a scene that has not been seen since or before in the NFL. That was in week 10 of the 2019 season, so it's a few seasons ago, but every time these two teams meet, it's all anybody talks about. So the AFC North is wide open this year, and each team has a shot at making the playoffs. But here's my preview for each team in the AFC North for this year. So we are going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers first. So the Steelers went through the first 11 games of the 2020 season, 11-0, unbeaten. You would think that a team that begins 11-0 would maybe finish with a record of 15-1 or 14-2, but nope, not the Steelers. After going 11 games unbeaten, the Steelers lost 4 out of their final 5 games to leave them with a record of 12-4. It's almost as if someone was jinxing them by doing TikTok dances on the logo of the opposition team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the most ferocious defenses in the entire league. They currently hold the NFL record for the most consecutive sacks in consecutive games, or the most sacks in consecutive games, which currently stands at 73, which, to put that into context, a regular NFL season, for those that don't know, is 16 games long. This means that the Steelers have had a sack in each game for around 4.5 regular seasons. That's not counting playoffs. That's purely just regular season games. To be honest, it's not a big surprise when you consider the depth of defensive talent that the Steelers have. Players like TJ Watt, Cam Hayward and Devin Bush Jr. It's no real surprise that they have such a huge record. And the Steelers pride themselves in having a strong defence, and this will continue into 2021. The Steelers' offense last season had a few good moments. The explosion of rookie wide receiver Chase Claypool, who was the second round pick in 2020 draft, was a definite highlight for the Steelers. Less of a highlight was the Steelers' run game, which kind of struggled all season. They only had 680 rushing yards, which left them bottom of the running stats. This was in part due to the injuries to James Conner, who would have boosted these numbers if he stayed fit all season. But the Steelers have addressed this issue and have gone out and drafted Najee Harris in the 2021 draft, and he is expected to be a big player for Pittsburgh this season. The aging QB situation is also a worry for the Steelers, with Ben Roethlisberger surely in the final stages of his Hall of Fame NFL career, so it'll be interesting to see how he performs this year. I don't think the Steelers will go 11-0 in the 2021 season. I think they will have a winning record, as they are still a strong team, but the addition of Najee Harris at running back has boosted a key element in their offense. The Steelers' defense will win them games this season, as they do every season, but I think I will go for a 10-7 record for the Steelers in the 17-game season. The next team that I'm going to cover is the Baltimore Ravens. Last season, the Ravens had a record of 11-5, which left them second in the division. They will see this as a slightly disappointing season, as they had a few games where they did not look like the Baltimore Ravens of previous seasons, and that's mainly down to Lamar not having the best game. They started the season with a record of 6-5, before going on a 5-game winning streak to end the season to give them a playoff position, including a win against their divisional rival, the Cleveland Browns, in Week 14, who I will be covering a little bit later on. The success of the Baltimore Ravens, I think everybody can agree, is based off the star QB Lamar Jackson. If he performs well, the Ravens perform well. If he doesn't perform well, the Ravens don't perform well. That's generally how it goes. He is the main attacking threat that the Ravens have and will have for the next few seasons. He is a scrambling QB who will always look for a chance to gain yards by himself. And he only really throws to two receivers, the wide receiver Hollywood Brown and the tight end Mark Andrews. Especially in the red zone, he will try to find Andrews for a touchdown. The Ravens added to their attacking core by drafting talented wide receiver Rashad Bateman with the 27th overall pick. Whether or not he is used as much as Hollywood Brown is still to be confirmed. You know, he's a young rookie. They don't want to put too much pressure on him straight away, but he definitely adds an extra element to the Ravens offense. The Ravens offense needs to add more weapons as Jackson needs more people to throw to, especially in the slot, to gain those short first downs against teams with a decent defensive backfield, as everybody knows Lamar will look to scramble. So if you shut off Lamar scrambling, then he has to throw, which is yet to be tested. He does have a good arm, but he hasn't been made to throw an awful lot, especially last season. So if teams can make him throw a lot this year, then, you know, then we will see what the Baltimore Ravens actually need in terms of receivers. The Ravens defense is led by gigantic defensive end Calais Campbell, who is an absolute NFL veteran, and corner Jimmy Smith. The Ravens have had a few hot prospects in their defense, including Patrick Queen, who was tipped as a potential defensive rookie of the year last year. The Ravens also drafted another linebacker in the 2021 draft, Odafe Owe, who with the 31st pick. The Ravens will be looking to add another few defensive players that can boost the prospects of the immense talent of Lamar Jackson on offense to give them a shot at the top spot in the AFC North. I will give them a record of 13-4 for this season. The Cleveland Browns, we're going to move on to next. So in 2017, the Browns went 0-16. That's not a mistake. They lost all 16 regular season games that year. 3 seasons later in 2020, they ended with a record of 11-5 and the playoff game against their rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a huge improvement on a couple of seasons ago, and the Browns will be hoping that they can improve on that record in the 2021 season. The Browns have explosive players all over the place. If we deal with the offensive side of the ball first, the Browns have players like QB Baker Mayfield, who had a decent year last year and will be hoping to improve. They have probably the best dual threat running back duo in the NFL in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And they also have stud wide receivers like Rashad Higgins, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., who they will be looking to pass to a lot this year. The Browns can hurt you in so many ways, and there are very few defenses that are in a position to actually stop them, in my opinion. If you focus your attention on stopping the run game, then Baker will throw for 300 yards to the wide receivers I've just mentioned. If you try to stop the passing game, then they will use the best running back committee in the NFL to run for 300 yards. Good luck to the NFL in stopping the Browns offense this year, as it will be a very tough task indeed. The Browns defense is just as explosive as their offense. The star player in the defense is without a doubt Myles Garrett, who we talked a little bit about earlier. He's nearly impossible to stop. You know, he's not quite at Aaron Donald's level, but he's just below that. Many have tried and failed to prevent Garrett from getting to their QB, but he's just so quick and so agile around the edge that he's nearly impossible to stop. This season, the Browns have added great players to their defense through the draft. They used their first round pick to draft corner Greg Newsome to provide support in the secondary, and they used their second round pick to draft linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Again, good luck to the NFL beating the Browns defense this year. I really do think the Browns are the AFC Championship contenders, if not Super Bowl contenders in the AFC, and I'm going to go for a record of 15-2 for them this year. I don't really see any weaknesses in their team, and I can only see 2 teams being able to beat them on both sides of the ball this year, and that's reflected in my prediction for this year. And finally, we move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Without being disrespectful, the Bengals are the weakest team in the NFL North this year. That is not saying they're a bad team. They have definitely made great improvements over the last year or two. It's just that everybody else in the division is so good and so strong. They had a record of 4-11 in 2020, but played the final 5 games without their first overall pick in the 2020 draft. After he tore his ACL, MCL in his knee in a Week 11 game against the Washington football team. The Bengals will have the first round pick back as their QB in Joe Burrow, and it is a high possibility that he will be their QB for the next 10 to 15 years if he stays fit. In the 2021 draft, the Bengals used the 5th overall pick to draft Burrow's former LSU teammate, wide receiver Jamar Chase, who is widely regarded as the best wide receiver coming out of the draft this year. This will help the offensive threat that the Bengals will pose this year, but their offense still needs work. Their best running back is Joe Mixon, who is plagued by inconsistency throughout his career, and that's to be expected when playing behind a weak O-line like the Bengals have. The Bengals are rebuilding, and it will be a few more years before they will worry the majority of teams in the NFL. The Bengals defense has standout players like safety Jesse Bates III and rookie defensive end Joseph Osai, who they drafted this year. The Bengals defense is still weak and provides little support for the offense, which means the Bengals will struggle to make an impact against teams with strong offenses in the NFL and in the AFC North, as was seen with the other three teams. Again, it will be a few more years of smart drafting, trading and player development before the Bengals can be considered a force in the AFC North. I think the Bengals will struggle this year and have them down with a record of 6-11. But this all depends on keeping stars Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase fit, as those two have the potential to win games by themselves. So my final predictions for the AFC North this year are the Cleveland Browns in first, followed by the Baltimore Ravens in second, third will be the Pittsburgh Steelers, and fourth will be the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you think of my season preview for 2021 in the AFC North? Do you agree or disagree with what I've said? Do you think the Baltimore Ravens can come top instead of the Cleveland Browns? You can let me know on Twitter or Instagram at NFL_NI, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, as it helps out greatly and allows other people to see the content that is uploaded to this channel. Finally, I just want to say thank you for watching and be sure to check back soon for more content.